I'm only one drink away from the devil. I'm only one call away from home.
Welcome back to Unbandaged, the number one podcast in America, according to us, all our listeners. Now we're blowing up. We're on social media, Govy. Let me tell you where we're at. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And to find us on the social media, you have to go Unbandaged Pod. So we want to talk about, we have just a full list of things here to go over today. And we're going to start out a little on my side. I just came back from Brazil. My son and my daughter-in-law had a little baby girl. And I flew there Monday and came back yesterday. And my perception of Brazil, San Palo, Brazil, which is a city of 20 million people, larger than New York City, my perception of Brazil was very different than reality. When, for 12 years, my son has been married, and they've come to the United States, and we live an unbelievable life, and we're taking them all around to great restaurants and nice houses and doing all kinds of fun things, and I'm kind of feeling bad for my daughter-in-law. Like, I'm thinking Brazil's like the movie The In-Laws, where in the hotel lobby, the chickens are running through the lobby. But it was so different. It was such an incredible country. And it was so sophisticated. And everybody was in uniforms everywhere you went. The streets were immaculate. And I realized America is getting lapped here. We're spending all this money on our military and all these different things. And you go to a country like Brazil where everywhere you go is face recognition to get into a restaurant, to go through the airport, to do anything. The technology is unbelievable. The airport in San Palo, I was in Terminal 3. You can literally put the JFK airport in Terminal 3, and there's probably 8 terminals in this airport. And as you go through the airport, there's stores, Gucci, Chanel, every fancy store. I was overwhelmed by what's going on in this country and how nice it is. And it was very, very inexpensive. You go out to dinner, a 5-star dinner, and it's literally $50 a person. You don't tip, and everybody's nice. You don't tip, and everybody's nice. And everything's included, tip included. And I'm coming back on the plane, and I'm thinking about this podcast. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? I love America, but everybody's fighting over all this stuff, this woke movement and all the right stuff and all the left stuff. And you just don't know how America, it just seems like everything's getting wider and wider.
Well, you know, I think it's important that we need to spend money on the military because we're in such a dangerous position in the world right now that this is not the time to cut back on it because we're like with what's going on in China and Russia and Ukraine and all the other, and Iran and Israel and all the other stuff. But we need the other countries to step up and pay their fair share. I mean, it's like Ukraine and the Russia war is on next to their countries. I mean, they have more to lose than the United States right now. So they have to start doing what they promised, which is 2% of their GDP. And if they don't want to pay it, the United States should have to say, then we're not paying it.
Well, obviously what I saw in Brazil, they're spending their money on their country.
And by the way, so Hong Kong, if you go into Hong Kong and you want to take a subway that goes underneath a river and out the other side from Central into Kowloon, you can. If you want to be in Japan and you want to take a bullet train rather than a jet somewhere, they have a bullet train that can take you the equivalent from Boston to New York in an hour. But they spend money on their own countries and their own improvements. And our country, we're the ones that are close to a third world country. We should be spending all this money every time something goes on in Russia and Ukraine war. It's billions of dollars, billions that are going there. We just came off of the war in Afghanistan. I mean, it was Trump that basically there was no wars during him, but these endless wars, you don't realize it's 1 year goes into 5 years, goes into 10 years, and the next thing you know, Chicago has been a shithole for the last 15 years.
It's unbelievable. I didn't go to the outskirts of San Palo. I was in the city, but I likened it to New York City, and there's people walking around. You don't see a cigarette butt. You don't see cans on the street. You don't see homeless on the street. Everybody's in a uniform. It's just unbelievable. And in America right now, we're so troubled. I love America, and America's our home, but we're so troubled. You have Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, that is selling half of his factories and equipment now because he's too conservative, and they're putting him out of business. Bed Bath & Beyond and Walmart, and everybody's not buying from him. Then on the other side, you have Bud Light that's going out of business, or their sales are down 30% because they're way too far on the left. Then you have Disney, where the parks are half empty. It's like if you own a business today, how do you make a right decision? It seems like it's just so difficult. No matter what you do, you're just getting broken down by the crowds.
It is more difficult to try. You got to try to keep your business keep it out of the politics, which is hard today because everything's politics. As far as Mike Lindell goes with My Polo, he's lucky of one thing. Generally, most Americans are stupid, so he can take a polo. He can take a polo, and when things are going a little rough for him, and he gets thrown out of Bed Bath & Beyond and some of the big box stores, he decides that he's going to have a half-off sale. And then when he sells this polo at 50% off, and then he brings it down to 60% off, and then 70% off, and then 90% off, what he does is he then takes like a 4-month break, and then he introduces My Polo 2.0. It's really the same polo, and he brings it back up to 100%. And these people that were happy with their polo are now saying, how much better this new, it's the same polo. But Americans, a lot of them are stupid. So now he's making more money.
Right. The pillow is supposed to be cooler when you put your head down on it. So you imagine this pillow feels a little cooler than pillow 1.0. Pillow 2.0.
Well, listen, a car, you could say you got a 6.0 engine, you got power windows, you got power locks. This guy takes a polo and says, don't you like it better? I mean, it's ridiculous, but I agree. Politics came into play. But I would like to ask you a little bit about when you were in Brazil. Give me the comparison of the living as if you were making $250,000 a year as a salary. How do you live there compared to, say, the United States?
You live like a king. I mean, if you own a $250,000 apartment in San Palo, Brazil, it would be like a $5 million apartment here. Now, they don't have fancy cars. Nobody has fancy cars because the road systems and the traffic is just crazy, and there's motorcycles everywhere. I mean, I couldn't physically drive in Brazil. It's absolutely insane. But everything, like my son and his wife delivered in a hospital. The hospital was the nicest hospital I've ever seen in my life. It was all marble. It's all free. Everything's free. And in their particular hospital room, they had a living room and a single bedroom. That was their hospital room. I mean, I've been in the hospital here in Boca Raton, which is a very nice hospital. My father's been there a number of times. He's still alive at 93. And, there's 2 people in a room, and the beds are 6 feet apart. I mean, in Brazil, it's like marble and polished. But the point is, to go from the hospital to the hotel is a 15, 20-minute cab ride. It's $3. And you're not allowed to tip. If you give them $5, they give you 2 back, and you say, no, keep the $2. And they're like, no, take
Well, they have like a dictator there, so maybe there's like the happy medium. We're one side, and they're another. Maybe there's a happy medium on to
like if you steal, they cut your hands off, kind of thing, right? Or if you rape somebody, they cut your penis off.
I mean, we have in New York the other day, there was a guy that a photographer was behind a guy in New York City. He's walking by Times Square, and the guy has a knife that's ready to stab someone, and a photographer is taking a picture of him with the knife as the guy puts his hand on the guy in front of him's shoulder, and all of a sudden the police come and they arrest him. And today, he's out on cash bail. And if you look
Is
at
it no cash? It's cash bail or no cash?
no
bail?
cash bail.
Oh,
I'm
no
sorry.
cash. No cash bail.
So you're looking at this guy and you're saying, what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for him to actually go through with it? So it's like we're a little on the other side, but going back with what you said with My Polo guy and all these different companies. I mean, look at if you want to bring up Bud Light right now. I'm getting a little familiar with Costco. I just read a thing. I didn't know that there's like all these different signs that they give out if you shop at Costco. I didn't know like if there's an asterisk next to a product. It's called the Costco Death Star, and that means it's a product that they are discontinuing. And they're not going to have it like after it goes down as low as they can mark it down. It means you'll never see it at Costco again. And do you know what product just got the Death Star?
What?
Bud Light. Bud Light got a Death Star at Costco. I mean, these are people that buy the big, huge things and they go outside. So when you see Costco like saying waving the white flag,
That's it. It's over. Bud Light's done.
I told you, funeral. I'm letting you know it's done. You wait. This is the first step. It's only July. They got all summer.
And it's all the summer barbecues. You'd think Bud Light would be flying off of the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, Disney's having a tough time with the movies. They're losing out on all these movies. You got to keep politics.
Right. And our show, we've discussed it. We want to talk about politics, but we're trying to talk about some other things. And it just seems like every other subject you talk about, it comes right back to politics. And it's kind of crazy. But the point I'm also trying to bring out, I'm on this trip. And I guess everybody has a computer. And your computer, you have your passwords in. So when I log on, I still have AOL. I'm a dinosaur. When I log on my AOL in the morning, my computer automatically gets me on there. I don't know my password. I set it up 6 years ago. So here I am in South America, I can't get on my AOL. Now I want to watch Netflix. I don't know my password. I can't watch a Netflix.
That happens to me also. I mean, that happens.
This whole password protected world is so screwed up. It's like I feel like I'm walking in mud. I can't get out of my own way. My American Airlines frequent flyer miles. I didn't know my password. And by the way, my kids change it all the time because they.
And then when you try to get in and you get that, you tried 3 times.
Right, they lock you out.
They lock you out, and then you're just sitting there, and now you're locked out.
You're locked out. And now you're in the penalty box because you have to go on hold for 45 hours, waiting for, somebody in some foreign country that you can't understand.
They give you 3 guesses. You gotta, you get nervous. As you get to the 3rd guess, you're like, oh, come on, let it be a good one here. My
AOL sign-in, after I got locked out, it prompts you to this other thing. And they say, well, what was the last sign-in word that you had? Well, I don't even know my sign-in word today, let alone my last sign-in word.
Because we're at the cusp. Our age, it's either the technology. It's like sometimes we have a good day and we get it, and sometimes we're on the other end of the technology. Like I was at that Phillies Marlins game this past week.
Do I owe you $10? I said less than 5,000.
No, it was more because they gave out bobbleheads that day.
Then it's not a bet.
It's no bet because they gave out free bobbleheads. So as soon as I came in, they gave me a Marlins bobblehead. So as soon as I saw a little boy that was a Marlins fan, I made his day because they only give out one to a fan. So I gave him my. But as we're sitting there, and I'm sitting in these seats, and I'm like behind the Phillies dugout. I see food is being delivered to the people in their seats. And I said to my wife,
by the way, for our over 50,000 listeners, Govy is very recently married to a beautiful lady. So go ahead, Govy.
Okay, and she's 10 years younger than me. So, and as we're trying to order this food, there's what do they call it? That little gift that, is that what it's called? I mean, you stare at this thing. By the way, if I was back in my days going to Grateful Dead concerts and that little symbol was in front of me, I could have stared at it for 2.5. I could have stared at it for 2.5 hours. I would have been like, "Wow, just give me a little gift." I would have looked at it like it's a microcosm of the world. That little gift. But now you put your thing and now you can order your food. So I'm like getting a little.
You're excited because you're ordering your food at your seat.
At my seat, it's coming down. I see it looks easy. Everybody's getting their food,
And it's expensive at the moment.
It's expensive, but all of a sudden I put my thing in and it says, "Oh, I have to log in to their thing." So now I log in. It's now asking me to create a password. It's like I just want to order food.
You're 2 innings in.
I don't want to log in. So all of a sudden, then I can't remember a password. So now I have to say to my wife, "Why don't you try?" So she tries, and of course she gets through. She orders a couple of hot dogs, a beer for herself. I get a soda, and all of a sudden it's asked for a tip. So you talk about difference of Brazil and everything. We're now tipping. I don't mind tipping someone that's bringing the food down. Don't get me wrong. I have a $10 tip for the guy that's bringing down the hot dogs and stuff. And then all of a sudden she puts it in, and my phone like beeps. Like 8 minutes later and says the food's ready. I can pick it up at...
And you think they're delivering it to you.
Yeah, but
You laid out $10 tip and no delivery.
And it says pick it up behind like section 242, the hot diggity dog place or whatever.
Right.
And I said to Wendy, what happened? And she says, well, I pushed it, but she must have pushed the wrong button, and we're on pickup, not delivery.
Oh, geez,
so now I got to get up, walk halfway around the stadium, pay them the tip to pick up my food to come back to the stadium. And I said, we just missed it. We're so close for perfecting it. But by the next game, I think I'll be able to do it. But that's where I'm on the other side. Like, I came close to getting the food, but I didn't.
It just seems like when you have things like that, those applications, if you make a mistake, I think intentionally they don't let you go back and correct your mistake. You're stuck. You made the mistake. You can buy it again.
Well, it's funny that you said that, because as soon as we walked into the stadium, my wife wanted a beer, and they have these express beer things where all it is a refrigerator, and you grab a beer and they scan it and you can leave. So there was 2 employees at the stadium. She grabs the beer, and there's I didn't know, it looks like this thing, and I put my bobblehead on it before I gave it to a child that I had,
Right.
and all of a sudden they charged me $42 for this one beer, and I go, what's this? I didn't know it, but my bobblehead weighed and so now to give me my credit back, they didn't know how. So now they had to wait for a manager.
2 innings.
Yeah, to come back. It was 2 innings there, 2 innings to get the food. By the time I got to the seats, the Phillies were down 5-0.
Right.
But it's.
So that's the problem. We're both over 60, and we're living in a society. I mean, these kids, they push their phone. They use 2 fingers. Do you use 2 fingers to text? I use 1 finger.
Me too. I use one too.
And all these applications and all these passwords, it's like I'm at the supermarket here, and I go into the 10 items or less line. Okay, so now what it says there, 10 items or less. So I'm saying to myself, this is great. There's one woman in front of me. She has about 12 items. And I'm like, maybe I should call her out on this. But okay, I'll let her go through with her 12 items. And I'm thinking maybe she thinks because she has 3 of the same frozen dinners, that counts as 1 item. I'm not going to argue with her. And then she must be a regular at the supermarket. And she starts, how's your kids, to the cashier. Sally, how's your kids? How's your husband? And they're talking for 5 minutes in the express line.
Sometimes you can get behind someone where they have, buy one, get one free.
Yeah.
So then they come with their 10 items, but it's really 20. But they're only paying for 10, but you're still behind someone for 20 items.
Oh, my God. So anyway, that's our, little shtick on, what's happening on the world. So we have to talk a little politics. I mean, we know our president, Joe Biden, just went overseas for the NATO conference. Now, he's not flying there like I flew to Brazil in a commercial plane with 400 people in it. He's flying on Air Force One. Air Force One, I guess, I've never been on it, has a bed, has waitresses and stewardesses and whatever. And he gets to NATO, and what happens the first night?
I mean, it's hard to make it up, and I know it's one-sided and everybody's always can defend him. Sort of like I was told, if you say anything negative, it's like a bruise that you would hurt him. But
he's in NATO. It's the biggest, 35 leaders in the world.
The first dinner with 35 of these world leaders, it's the time when everything really happens behind the scenes because the camera's on and you can make your deals. And our president decides he's calling a lid, which is that's it, and he goes to sleep. He goes to sleep because he's exhausted.
And he flew there on Air Force One.
And 2 days earlier, we saw him on the beach in Delaware. We saw him like he had a tough time moving that aluminum chair around that weighs all of half a pound, but he was exhausted. How do you send a leader over there that can't go to the dinner?
All right, so this is the issue, and we've been talking about it.
Could you do that in business if you send someone to represent you and all of a sudden he tells you that he didn't go to the dinner?
Yeah, he was exhausted. But this is the issue. Is he too old to run again? And here he goes to the biggest thing of the year. It's the Super Bowl of politics. It's the NATO conference. Every leader of the world is there. And the guy can't show up. He's sleeping. He's exhausted because he didn't get enough sleep on Air Force One. And, Megyn Kellys of the world who have podcasts, obviously not as popular as ours. Ours is bigger than Megyn Kelly. I think we have more listeners. In fact, I am now carrying the Sharpie pen around with me everywhere I go in case I have to sign an autograph, Govy.
I just, with this actor strike that's taking place, I just want you to know.
Go ahead.
They might want us to go on TV for filler. I mean, because this is a great opportunity for us. With no TV, no actors, this is our time. But tell me about the dinner.
So Megyn Kelly and all these podcast pundits are now saying they're on this Nikki Haley bandwagon. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting for Kamala. How do you say Kamala Harris? Right?
True.
You're voting for Kamala Harris. This guy has 2 years left in this term. He's going to run again, and most people are going to go in there if they're Democrats. They're just going to pull the Democratic lever or the Republican lever. They don't even care that it's Joe Biden. And he's going to have 4 more years, and he's not possibly going to make it. So you're going to have Kamala Harris as president. And Megyn Kelly, I've never seen her this way. She just stone out said this Kamala Harris is an idiot. I thought she was the Attorney General of San Francisco. She had to be a smart lady, and she's a moron. I'm sitting there, and I can't believe she's calling this woman out like that.
If Saturday Night Live could do a skit, I think a great skit would be the dinner that Joe Biden wasn't at. And you get these actors to play these world leaders that were there. And when you think they would turn around, what do you think they're thinking about Joe Biden? What do you think they were saying?
Where is the guy?
Where's Joe? Is he tired? What's the deal? What's the deal? Behind his back, people are talking. What do you think? Do you think he has to go to the bathroom? Does he have a cramp? Does he have this? I mean, you have to know what happened to the guy.
Yeah, but why can't they give him 2 or 3 Red Bulls and just send him out there? I mean, come on, Joe. You don't even have to talk. Just go sit there.
I mean, it's great, but they're talking behind his back. So what do you think they're thinking? Do you think they're thinking, can the United States, they must be thinking, how did this guy win? Between him, Fetterman, Dianne Feinstein. I mean, what's the Kamala Harris? The United States, we're a sieve of a country.
It's a shame. And when I was over there in Brazil, and I thought it was a third world country before I got there, I called you from the airport. I am in this most magnificent airport. And I said to you, we're losing. We're getting crushed here. These people are killing us. They are just absolutely wiping the floor with us. It's beyond gorgeous. Everybody's in a uniform. Everybody's nice, and nobody's getting tipped. Here in America, if you don't tip somebody, they don't even talk to you.
I think Joe Biden, the reason why he wasn't at this dinner is I think he got a phone call that said, Joe, I need you to go back to the hotel room, and I need you to talk to Hunter. He's craving for a little Coke. So talk him down. And I think, if you notice, Hunter's with him 24/7, except for this NATO trip.
Maybe Joe should have done a little Coke.
Yeah, so he has to be there. If you notice, he's with him by his side because that's his number one priority right now because, he doesn't want him to relapse because if he tests positive, he goes to jail.
Right.
And right now, the Secret Service, after this investigation, basically says, we give up. We can't find it. We can't find it. I think they were thinking for somebody to come to the White House and say, I lost a little packet.
Yeah.
Did anybody find it?
Yeah.
And they thought they were going to get help that way. But
all right, so let's give a little background. So cocaine was found in the White House. Now, it moved 4 different places. It started out in a locker, and then it moved next to the situation room, and then it moved here, and it moved there. All right, so it's moved all around. Now you have this cocaine. Now, we did a show about 3 weeks ago. It was about, my front row seat at Mar-a-Lago. Now, there's cameras every 4 inches. I mean, every 4 inches. How is it possible in the White House, next to the Situation Room, there's not 400 cameras that are identifying whose cocaine that is? It's impossible.
But how do they downplay it by making it's no big deal? Now listen, in reality, if you're at a nightclub or you're somewhere, coke really isn't that big of a deal, a little packet. But in the White House, when everybody had to evacuate because they thought it was anthrax and they had to have the hazmat team there, it is a big deal. And then, you hear a little later on that there's this 2 other times they found weed. They found some pot at the White House. So this is the 3rd time they found drugs. So then you think, okay, so it's a little bit of weed. What's the big deal? But then I found out that the weed that they're talking about, what they consider under a misdemeanor, is just under 2 ounces.
That's a lot of weed.
2 ounces.
How many joints is that? That's like 100 joints. I'm thinking 200. I went to University of Miami. I should know this.
Two Z's is a lot. I'm thinking, okay, they found a little joint on the guy that came in there, but 2 Z's is that guy's
That's a lot.
That's dealing. That's almost
and
like you're dealing.
If you're rolling Cheech and Chong joints, I mean, that's the,
But 2 Z's, it's here, let me put it in the cubby. I got the key. Comes back and I fill it up for you. That's a dealer that's coming into the White House. It's supplying people. I mean, 2 Z's is a dealer. That's what's going on in this White House.
But I mean, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You got to be pissed off. I mean, somebody brought cocaine into the White House, an illegal substance, and the Secret Service, with 400 cameras every 2 inches, can't tell you who did it. It's just that I just don't know how they think we're that dumb that we're going to believe that story.
They're laughing. They're laughing at the Republican Party because, in reality, let me ask you, if it was Donald Jr. or Eric, tell them.
They'd be in Rikers Island right now. Yeah, they'd be in Rikers Island.
Do you think they would just say, I'm satisfied? I'm satisfied with the investigation.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable that they don't at least say, I imagine he has this plea deal July 26th. I would imagine prior to them agreeing to any plea deal, they're going to call some mobile lab into the courthouse and make him, piss into a cup and test them. I mean, I just don't understand why. If I'm running the Secret Service, I would say, okay, here's the log. Here's the 500 people that came in for those 3 days. I don't care who they are, what they are. It could be Joe Biden. I want everybody to do a hair follicle or a urine test. I want to know who's testing positive for cocaine. Not only to know whose cocaine is it, why are they working in the White House if they're high on cocaine? I mean, it's our federal dollars at work here.
Well, let me ask you this question. If the judge, when it comes time for Judgment Day, and she doesn't accept the plea, which she's entitled to, she has plenty of ammunition not to, how do you think the Democratic Party reacts to Hunter Biden, her not accepting the plea that she wants to investigate further? Do you think they go crazy like he got an unfair treatment? Do you think that they're going to take the side that he was treated unfairly because of that? Or maybe the whole country could sit there and say, hey, this judge did the right thing. Because I think this judge, moving forward in her career, it's crazy. She's in a position that her career, she'll always be known as the judge that either stopped it or she let it go through. And I think she has to call him out on it.
Well, I think what she does is, in order to protect herself, she makes him take a drug test or puts obstacles in his way that he has to go through before he gets this plea deal.
And make it pay for TV. Could you imagine that being on TV, the drug test? That would be great.
It would be amazing. And, now we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., after we saw his glistening pecs there and doing push-ups, and he's the strongest presidential candidate at the moment, he has now admitted to doing steroids or some sort of growth.
Age, something for his age.
Right. Now, did that affect his voice, or
He did. He went on TV and he explained about his voice that something happened that it's the way it is. He says he even has a tough time listening to himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he really did, and which is what I said all along. So I think he had to address that situation because it really is hard. But at least when he explained it to you, it's easier to overcome when you see a disability that it was something that he's like. I guess he was aware of it. I would be kind of stupid that he's not aware of it. But he talked about it, and he has some good valid points. I mean, all he has to do is you know what? As long as he stays the course, and if Joe slips up, I think Robert F. I think he's looking at the bench, and he's sitting there saying, if I can get this guy out of here, they got nobody.
Well, I think he's at 20% now.
But they have no one. They would have to scramble. What are they going to do? Put Newsom back in there? I mean, they're like coming up. He has to try to stop a law right now that, do you know, child trafficking in California wasn't like a felony? He had to finally put it back on the books because they took it off. How can child human trafficking not be a felony in the state of California, and yet he wants to run for president? I mean,
how's it? Look, he's not exposed right now. If he's an actual candidate, all these issues.
Well, if Joe Biden has to drop out,
Pete. What's his name? What's his name, my friend?
Piss Pot Pete.
Piss Pot Pete.
Has to come. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy becomes the front runner. He becomes the front runner because Newsom's not going to win with the California, so it could be Robert F. Kennedy or Joe Manchin.
Now, what do you think about Robert F. Kennedy's theory that the CIA and everybody killed his father and his uncle? I mean, that's kind of like out there.
Well,
like UFO kind of conversation.
But you used to think that, but now you think with the CIA.
That's true.
And with this CIA and everything, you start thinking about this Russian collusion thing and the Trump thing. You start thinking the CIA. I think they're the ones. They're the ones who chooses who's
Govy.
They're the ones who choose. They're the ones who choose who the president is.
Yeah,
I truly believe the last three presidential elections, like it didn't seem like anything went at the last minute. You go to sleep at one time, you wake up, you have a different president. It's like I almost feel like somebody else is controlling who is the president of the United States.
Well, it's interesting because all these gigantic democratic cities are doing amazing things to destroy their city. I mean, Philadelphia right now, they're doing this new toilet thing. Why don't you tell us about that? Because it's just mind-blowing. I can't even get it out of my mouth without laughing.
Well, like every major city, they wanted this one toilet. It's like a one-seat toilet that you can go into.
Like on any random major street, they have a...
but they decide to put 4 in the city. And if you go to any major city, you always have one nice area of the city where the business district, shopping district is. And then you got the 3 outlining areas that are like bullets are flying overhead in Philadelphia. And they decide they're going to put this toilet there. First of all, I don't know, it's like $1 million toilet. But... who's cleaning the toilet to keep it set? First of all, it's just waiting for a crime to happen.
Right, a rape in a toilet box.
So I think it's like this circle. I think like the lawyers, like they go out and they want a campaign to have a toilet.
They lobby for it.
They lobby for a toilet.
Right, $500,000 each porta potty.
Right, and then they wait for something to happen, like a rape, a mug, and then they sue. It's like the money comes back to them, like in a way. Someone trips, someone gets mugged. Nothing good can happen. And by the way, it's 93 degrees up in these northern cities right now.
Who's going in a porta potty with a newspaper, right?
Yeah, and then I heard that the water isn't really water. It's like when you're washing your hands, it's like toilet water. And they have people going in there drinking like they're drinking like they think they're getting free water, but they're drinking toilet water.
Oh my God. Yeah, but I mean, what do they do? Sit around at city council and think of things like this? Oh, we're going to put...
When was the last public toilet that they had in Philadelphia? Never?
Well, they always used to have them at the parks, where the city ball fields, where the kids play, like Teeny Field.
How did that work out?
Well, they were always like a big, giant, wide open space. It was like in a concrete building where, no matter how much you missed the urinal, you weren't going to break the drywall. It was a concrete wall. And, it was always in the city park. So you always found your way to a city park. But it's just another stupid idea to waste $500,000.
Don't you think that is a great area for the drug dealers to sell drugs? I mean, there's no cameras. It's hidden. You go in there. You leave the bathroom. You leave a packet on the sink.
Right.
The next guy comes in, puts the packet in his pocket, and the transaction's done.
You're a problem solver, guy.
I mean, why deal right in the middle of the street? Go into the bathroom.
You're a problem
That will be his office.
Right.
The office is controlled by the drug dealer. And when he stands outside and you see a guy that looks like he's like pretty scary, are you using that bathroom anyway? No. We now have drug dealer outposts, so you know where it's at.
But we touched on the subject. I want to go back to it, this actor strike. You have Fran Drescher, who was the nanny, the TV show The Nanny. And I'm like, how is she qualified, to be head of the union for, the actors and the actresses and whatever. And I don't quite understand.
No one wanted the job, I guess.
What are they arguing over? I mean, obviously the guys at the top are making millions of dollars, but I'm sure plenty of people, that are starving in Hollywood would die for work for no money to be in any TV show or any movie. Now, what are they fighting over? I don't get it.
Money. They're fighting over money. They're fighting over with AI coming out, like likeness and everything.
Oh, I can see with the AI. So they're duplicate. A scene without the actor or actress.
Right, and but also for the writers and stuff like that. But the studios are giving big money, and Disney and Bob Iger basically said, "Hey, they're on the wrong. They think the actors and the writers are on the wrong side," and I happen to think that they're going to get taught a lesson here of what's going on in the real world, and.
Because we're going to become more gigantic than we are.
Yeah,
you're going to have our podcast.
They're going to put our competitor like Joe Rogan up on TV, and you're going to be watching with a nice TV, and you're going to watch his show. But I also think throw a sporting event on. All they have to do is here's another baseball game, UFC, Dana White.
Yeah.
No one cares. They'll see a cage match and all of a sudden
midgets fight.
Right. So you'll watch that. Then you'll watch real reality shows. The Housewives of Boca Raton will be coming up.
Do it. Or how about the husbands of Boca Raton?
So these actors, they're bucking up the wrong tree on where it's going. Plus, you can get actors in other countries, and you just watch a show like Netflix. So you watch a bunch of other actors in Brazil doing a show, a documentary, whatever.
So I wonder if they thought this out because, the last writer's strike, I forget how many years ago it was, but they didn't have podcasts. They didn't have streaming. They didn't have all these other things. Now, all of a sudden, you have all these other things. I agree with you. Maybe they're making a bad move here. Maybe they're over leveraging what they have. They're going to screw it up.
They're going to find out what it's like to be on the wrong side in the woke movement, and then all of a sudden, someone's going to blink, and the actors are going to finally say to the writers, "Hey, I got mansions that I got to pay. I got people I got to pay. I try to stay out as long as I can. It was about 2 weeks, and then I have to go back. But eventually, these actors, they don't want. You know what? They don't want to work at Disney World. They don't want to dress up as Mickey Mouse or Cinderella or Pluto.
Out there
yeah,
right
I mean, they don't want to be a mascot anymore. They don't want to go down to working in an amusement park. So they're going to like fold like a tent, and everybody's going to sit there and say, "I'm sorry,"
Yeah. So all these great TV shows that you wait. To the next season to see what happens on Blue Bloods or see what. Nobody in September. You're not going to be able to do any of this. You're not going to, have any.
Or you get to see other states. What's going to be very again, not to go it's politics again, but California is a very Democratic blue state. Well, all of a sudden there's going to be another state that's going to come along, and it's going to be like maybe Florida, and say, "Hey, we're going to move a studio here. We're going to open up a studio here. It's it's really a non-union state. Joe Biden's going to have to won't be able to go on his stuff because he's pro-union. And what happens if all of a sudden actors started to make movies here and writers started to write here and they're saying, you know what, we're happy with the salary here and no state tax. Just make the stuff in Florida.
Yeah, just think about that. If whatever they're asking for, the additional money in California, the taxes,
Move it.
versus coming to Florida where you have no state taxes. I mean, you know, that would be a 9 or a 10%.
Go to Texas.
Go to Texas. That's like a 10% increase in their pay.
Yeah, you can go places.
You're a problem solver, Govy.
Just move it, and there go. Eventually, you move it, and you say, "Here you go." And then what will Joe do?
Fran Dresser out, Govy in.
Yeah. The homeless are moving up. And by the way, what's going on in California with all the homeless that are sitting there? Did you see the guy that went to like a store and bought one of those blow-up swimming pools? So now he has a pool for the neighborhood. So all the homeless people are now swimming to get out of the heat. They're swimming in one of these plastic pools.
Where do they get the water from? I mean, where's the water come from?
It's like pretty funny. But
Well,
like,
when I was driving to the airport out of the city of San Palo, and you drive to the airport an hour and a half away, and you are going through some slums, and it's a bit of a tent city, and I'm at a traffic light, and there's this woman with her tent, and in front of her tent is open, and I could see in her tent, and she had a mirror, and I'm sitting there saying, that's pretty unbelievable.
she maybe was going out to dinner that night.
She's homeless and she has a mirror. She's concerned, enough that she found the mirror somewhere and she wants it in her homeless tent. Anyway, I mean, we're bucking up at the end of this show.
By the way,
It's
today,
crazy.
they finally got this Long Island killer, that came out today. And the guy's a 59-year-old guy. He's he's architect, family guy, and then Billy Baldwin comes out with his tweet. He went to high school with the guy. That was his classmate.
Oh my
So
God.
all the Baldwins were like classmates with this guy, and I didn't realize it. It was like 13 years they've been tracking this guy, and
you think about the forensics and everything they had to do to find this guy, but they can't find the nickel bag of cocaine.
they got this guy off. By the way, they got this guy off of his DNA was on a pizza crust.
Pizza crust, and they can't find the nickel bag in, next to the Situation Room, where, by the way, they're planning to protect America with every weapon we have. It's the most secure place in the world. It's more secure than the White House. It's the Situation Room, and they can't find a nickel bag.
But if you watch the news tonight on NBC, CBS, or ABC, you know what one of the top stories is going to be? January 6th, Donald Trump, something that he did something wrong that they're going to come up with.
Yeah.
But it's by the way, they investigated Jared Kushner. That's is he going to tell them something that they don't already know after like 3 years?
Right. Well, I mean, you had an excellent point, and I guess we're coming to the end, and we'll end with that. It just seems that every investigation or every question that they get, they say, well, it's under investigation. We can't talk about it. It's 5 years. It's under investigation. We can't talk about it.
I mean, that is the go-to line. It's
unbelievable.
They don't have to talk. One day there's going to be
White House counsel's handling
One day
it.
there's going to be the 5-year-olds of today. One day when we're all dead, they're going to say, we found who the coke belonged to. And they're going to be like, they don't even know. They're going to find out. They're going to give you a name that the guy's already been dead for 30 years.
Well, I think it's a bad example for our kids because our kids are learning how to lie. It's under investigation, Dad. I don't know. We're checking into it.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. And by the way, you get to see a bunch of stuff. Like yesterday, as it turns out, in Napa Valley, they had these horrible fires this past summer. And they had all these workers that are now suing Nancy and Paul Pelosi for $300 million.
Right.
Because when the fires came, there was a landfill that was owned by the Pelosi because they have a vineyard.
Right.
And there was a lot of toxins that when it burned down. So the Pelosi's gave them a surgical mask and said, go clean it up. And they got sick. So now you get to see, again, the hypocrisy, again, that these workers, they just send them up there. And
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
But anyway, so...
And by the way, the other hypocrisy, just to let you know, it's like John Kerry. He sits in front of the people.
That was great. Tell our 50,000 plus listeners
John
what
Kerry's
he said.
sitting there. He's our guy for he's
John
in charge.
Kerry, Secretary of Environmental, whatever.
Energy, to make sure that the global warming, to make sure everything's good. And they go up to John Kerry and they say, Well, you fly privately all the time, and that has a lot of carbon footprint that you're doing. So tell me about your plane. He goes, I do not own a private plane. I do not. I don't know why you keep saying I have a private. He says this to Congress.
Oh, I don't own a private plane.
Right, and I don't. And you have to stop saying that because I don't own one. I never did. And then the guy says, "Does your wife?" And he goes, yes, yes. So his wife is Heinz, her
as in ketchup,
and she was married to a Republican, John Heinz. And yes, she has a plane that they took 48 times last year. So it's sort of like going up to a guy that says, by the way, I only drive an electric car, but my spouse has a Hummer, right, and I use that all the
4
time.
Gallons of
so I mean, it's the hypocrisy. Again, this guy is telling you can't have a gas stove, but I'm going to fly on my wife's jet, not mine, my wife's jet.
Anyway, Govy, this show went way too fast. I mean, we are so popular now. I think maybe we should try and get 2 hours.
Now, where can they find us again?
Okay, that is a great question. They can find us on Bandaged Pod on Instagram. We are now doing TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Those are our social media. And they can find us on Spotify or Apple or anywhere else you get your podcasts. How'd I do?
You did great.
All right, everybody. We're down here in Boca Raton. It is a cool 96 degrees today.
No, it's 91 and it's great. We're used to a little heat down here.
Yeah. So, and we'll.
It's good to have you back here.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be back for a week, and then we're gonna. It's intermission. It's like a show where you get an intermission. It's intermission in the summer.
We're lucky that we don't have a strike from our writers.
Right.
That we do it ourselves.
Yeah, we do it ourselves. All right, everybody, have a great week. Thanks.
See ya.